Title: The Power of Yahweh and the Feast of Dedication. So we're going to go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 17 to start off this class. This is our header, Colossians 3 and 17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Hashem Hamashayach Yahawashi, giving thanks to the Most High Yahweh and the Abanawa by him. Just so those of you who are new can understand what we're saying. We're reading from the scriptures. We speak a lot of the words that we read from the scriptures in Hebrew. We call ourselves Hebrews. We are the 12 tribes of Israel, so we occasionally speak Hebrew. It's a Memorial Week. You should feel great about this week. You know, this is a week that we've been getting ready for since the last feast day. That's the thing about being in the truth. Once one feast day ends, you're looking forward to the next one. When's the next one coming? And so the next one is here. And the next one after this, we're going to be going into Purim. Okay, Purim is in the book of Esther. So we go from one feast day, we're like a leapfrog. We can't wait for the next feast day. After Purim, you got the Feast of Nicanor. After Feast of Nicanor, you got the Passover. Man, we're just running. Most High keeps these feast days coming. And it is a blessing to know these things. This is our heritage. Romans 15 and 4. Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. See that? So the Most High is showing us throughout the scriptures what we're looking forward to and how to perform and how to treat ourselves. If we go into 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, which is another header, and when people say, oh, I don't believe in the Bible, or I don't believe in the Old Testament, show them Romans 15 and 4. For whatsoever was written aforetime was written for our learning, so we can learn something. I mean, the thing about oral law is, it's given from a father and mother to a child. That child grows up to be a father. From that father and wife to a child, we pass it down. But a lot of us don't have it. The Most High had this written law put in place because he knew we was going to go into captivity. And this is our oral law. This is how we're keeping up with things, because some of us don't have a father. Some of us don't have a mother. A lot of us are orphans. So this is our law. This is our oral law in written form. So you have to always refer back to what our fathers and mothers was teaching us and the examples that they went through in the Bible. It's a beautiful thing to know. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15. And it reads, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise. Children learn from their parents, right? We are learning from the Holy Scriptures, which is the logs of our parents, you know, security, and even in the nursing field or other fields. One thing that you had to do, you have to keep a log. When you keep a log, that's how the next person that comes on the shift that relieves that person knows what happened in the shift prior to that. If they just walk in and there's no notes, or no log, you'll never know what happened before. You'll be reinventing the wheel. And with that being said, a lot of you who have children know even when you tell your children, they still try to start the wheel all over again, even though you're sitting there telling them, this is the way you do it. They don't want to hear what you have to say to them. Because why? Because they're hard-headed. They want to reinvent the wheel. So that's the same thing with our people when it comes to the scriptures. Although we are telling them, they are so hard-headed that they want to try and reinvent the wheel when they're going to continue to fail because they never listen to the parents. All right? And this is where we are. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15. And that from a child thou hast known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith which is in Hamashayach Yahawashi. All Scriptures is given by inspiration of the Most High. If it's given by inspiration, that's love. It's his inspiration. He loves to give you the understanding. Only a parent could give something to a child that way. And it's profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, because he cares. That's why. Verse 17, that the man of the Most High may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. This is the way to salvation, is what he's saying. All right. Let's go to Nehemiah. We're getting started in the class because if we're going to go into the Apocrypha, we have to know a few things regarding our power, Yahweh. You know, we have to know what he's like. So we're going to go to the prophet Nehemiah. We're going to go to the first chapter. And we're going to see how Nehemiah, someone who was close to the Most High, all the prophets were close to the Father, more so than the other people of Israel, because they had the unction to seek the Most High. They had to find him. They had to talk to him. They had to know him. So let's seek out one of the prophets, and let's see how he felt about the Father. Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 3. Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 3. And it reads, and they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. This is during the time of the captivities. We had the Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity, and the Persians and Medes. So this is at the end of those captivities. And Nehemiah is seeing the wall of Jerusalem broken down, the wall around the land of Israel, and then you had the temple within. Nehemiah 1:4. And it came to pass when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the Most High of heaven and said, I beseech thee, O power, my power of heaven, Yahweh, the great and terrible power. You see that? What did he call him? The great and terrible power. The way you would say this in the Hebrew language is El Shakya or El Shatya. Okay, the great and terrible power. Now, this is what the heathens called our Father. They never called him Yahweh. They always said El Shatya because he brought hurricanes and tempests and storms on them. So they feared him because of the destruction, not because they wanted to follow him. The great and terrible power that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thine ear now be attentive and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now day and night for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. So he's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. They all sinned against the Father. The tribe of Naphtali sinned, the tribe of Judah sinned, Levi, Benjamin. All of the tribes had committed iniquities during this time. And here's our prophet trying to find out, what can we do to get back to you, Father? Verse 7. We have dealt very corruptly against thee and have not kept thy commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments, which thou commandest thy servant Moses. All goes back to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Right? And then when you go into Deuteronomy 31, Moses tells us that we was going to fall. He told us how we was going to fall. He already knew that we were going to go off. Okay? The Most High knew it already. That's why he told Moses in Deuteronomy 31 that. Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 8. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if you transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. See that? But if you turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though they were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather thee from thence and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. So this is what he's going to do with the people today too, us. He's just waiting for us to get it right. He's being very patient. I'll put it to you in layman terms. The Most High has been burned by the children of Israel so many, that's what we call it in modern day times. The Most High has been burned by us so many times that he's making sure that the remnant is doing right this time. Nehemiah 1:9. But if you turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though they were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather thee from thence and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there, which is in Jerusalem. Let's read one more verse. Now these are the servants and the people whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. So who are thy servants? You see, it says thy servants, those are the prophets. These are those who serve the Most High day and night. And then he says, and the people. There's people that are in the congregation. This is the multitude, the people of Israel. But they're servants of the Most High. What do servants do? Serve, right? We serve the Most High regardless of time constraints. All right, so let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Maccabees. So now you should understand the type of father that we're dealing with. We call him the great and terrible power, because we were ripped away from our land. The Most High shut down the land, and he's going to repair it only if we change. So he's called the great and terrible power until we get it right. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 4. Now, 1 Maccabees chapter 4, we're skipping over chapter 1, 2, 3, which has a lot of ingredients in it. We're going to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is what we are in the midst of right now, Feast of Dedication. Okay? We're going to read about why this is important for us today. We kind of went over the first chapter all week. Barzal touched on it. A lot of us been teaching during the week. We've touched on it. But this is the nuts and bolts of chapter 4. I call chapter 4 the revenge. All right? This is the get back chapter. This is how we got back to get our feast days back. All right? So let's start at verse 1. We're going to read this whole chapter. All right? So prepare and be ready. Here we go. Then took Georgius 5,000 footmen. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 4. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1. Then took Georgius 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen and removed out of the camp by night. Now there were 7 brothers of the Maccabees. Maccabees, if some of y'all do not know what it means hammers. This is a nickname. Maccabees. It means hammers. Verse 2. To the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guys. So we're going up against the Greeks. Now when Judas heard, Judas is an Israelite. He's Judas Maccabees. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed and the valiant men with him, that he might smite the king's army, which was at Emmaus, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. Now, what you have to understand, this chapter is talking about war. It's talking about strategic options. This is showing the mindset of strategy. Like I had spoke before, let's go real quick to Exodus 15:3. Let me show you what the Most High is about. Exodus 15:3. Notice what it says in Exodus 15:3. It's a small verse, but it says, the Most High is a man of war. The Most High is his name. See that? So what is he? He is a man of war. So it tells you that the Most High is masculine, and it's telling you what? That he is a strategist. So he's always dealing with war tactics. Notice that's the epitome of man going to war. We see men today, we live here in the United States, we see most of the men, they going to work 9 to 5, but the epitome of man is war. And sometimes you see war in the streets, you see brothers killing each other with guns. That's the utmost notch darkness of man. That's what separates us from the women, the men. You know, that's the worst trait that we can have, unless it's the trait of the Most High. So we have to understand that, right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha, chapter 18, and let's go to verse 14. We're going to read 2 verses. Now, this is Yahawashi. We spoke about his father, but let's see Yahawashi, what he's like. Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha, chapter 18, verse 14. It reads, "For while all things were in quiet silence," most of the men are in quiet silence. They got their families and children. Some of them are in the other sins, gambling, lying, whoremonger. Some of them are in other sins, right? But the epitome of those sins is war. Verse 14, "For while all things were in quiet silence, and that night was in the midst of her swift course, thine almighty word," that's Yahawashi, the word of the Most High, "thine almighty word leaped down from heaven out of the royal throne as a fierce man of war into the midst of the land of destruction." So that's Yahawashi. When you read 1 John, it says that the word was with the Father. That's the Most High Son, Yahawashi. How do we know that's true? Proverbs chapter 30. As people say, well, the Son is not in the Old Testament. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 4. Proverbs 30 and 4. "Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended?" We just heard Yahawashi descended on the earth, his mighty word. "Who have gathered the wind in his fist? Who have bound the waters in his garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if thou canst tell?" So it's talking about 2 different entities. It's talking about the Father, and then it's saying, what is his son's name? If you could tell, what is his name? So Yahawashi is in the Old Testament. And both work together. They're both men of war, just so you know. So as we are reading the book of Maccabees, this chapter is about war and strategies and tactics. And a lot of us don't understand these things. But Israel was the master of tactics when the Most High got involved, right? This is better than the army. Look, we didn't have to separate divisions of our armies like Army, Navy, and Air Force. We had one army. Here in Israel, the Most High Yahweh was one. Let's go to verse 4, 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 4. And it reads, "While as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp, in the mean season came Georges by night into the camp of Judas." See, the enemy tried to come into quiet, just like we read about Yahawashi coming into quiet, wisdom of Solomon. That's a tactic. "And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains. For said he, these fellows flee from us." That's a tactic. They already knew they were coming. The Most High put that intellect on Judas Maccabees to set up a trap. See that? So you have to understand there's traps and all types of things when it comes to war. These men were going to sneak up on the children of Israel, the soldiers, the servants, and slay them, but they miscalculated. Let's start at 6. "But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men." Now the plain is like open area. So they showed up ready to fight. And it says, "Who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds." Guess what? Just because you read this, you automatically thought that they didn't have any swords. You automatically thought they didn't have any shields. They would never show up to a fight without any of that. They had it, but it was not important to them. This is where Nehemiah came in that we read from chapter 1 down to verse 10. Nehemiah, what did he do? He prayed to the Most High to intervene. And this is what the Maccabean brothers was doing. They was praying that the Most High would intervene. Verse 7. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and there were expert of war. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, Fear ye not their multitude, neither be afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. He's motivating the rest of the troops. Like, look, man, the Most High saved us in Egypt. Verse 10. Now, therefore, let us cry unto heaven, if perhaps the Most High will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day. What does that mean by him praying like that? We have to understand that they knew the Holy Scriptures because the oral law taught them this. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 19. And let's see what they were referring to when they said, let's pray to our Father, let's cry to him, so that he may what? Leap down from heaven. What the slack is. 2 Kings chapter 19, and let's go to verse 30. And it reads, And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall yet again take root downward and bear fruit upward. And this is about war now. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape of Mount Zion, the zeal of the Most High of hosts, shall do this. Judas Maccabean and the troops that was with him escaped. Verse 32. Therefore, thus saith the Most High concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into the city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a bank against it. Just like we read about in 1 Maccabees chapter 4, that all the enemies had everything. They were expert at war. Verse 33. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into the city, save the Most High. For I will defend the city to save it, for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. Now watch this. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Most High went out and smite in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpse. One angel did this. One angel. They slew this angel slew 85,000 people. Imagine that, one angel. This is what Judas Maccabees was praying for. Look at verse 36. This is what happened to the king. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh. He ran like a little coward. See that? Now let's find out about this angel. Let's go to Joshua. Joshua chapter 5. Most High don't need a bunch of angels to come down and fight. All they need is one. One angel can knock an ICBM missile out of the air. One angel. One angel could be the United States or the United Snakes or Europe's worst enemy. One angel. And they're on our side. We forget all the time that we got help. Let's go to Joshua chapter 5, verse 13. And it reads, And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with a sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries? So he approached this man as if he was just a man, but this wasn't no ordinary man. It's like Scarface said on Ghetto Boys, my mind's playing tricks on me. This ain't no ordinary man. Verse 14. And he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of the Most High am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my power unto his servant? And the captain of the Most High's host said unto Joshua, this is Yahawashi. He is the captain of the Most High's host. Loose thy shoes from thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. Joshua came face to face with a mighty angel. See that? One angel. So we have to understand that we got power, and that angel that is sent by the Most High is coming to save us. This angel is Yahawashi, and he has power over the rest of the angels, right? But we seek the Most High for help. He is the ultimate. We always go to him and ask that he send help. Isaiah 60, and let's go to verse 12. 60 and 12. And it reads, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve you, which is the Most High, shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. This is what happened to the kingdom of Assyria. They got wiped off the map. Now we're going to see it with the Maccabees. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9. So most of these nations are not going to serve the Most High in truth, right? They might say his name. They might think that it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that they're calling on. But he ain't going to listen to them. He's going to listen to those of his children that are keeping the commandments, right? Now, if they're going up against a nation that serves a totally different God, he might be with them. You understand? But if he's going up against the children of Israel, those who are keeping the commandments, know his name, all of the above, they can't win. They can't win. Revelation chapter 9 and verse 20, and this is something the United States does. They have chaplains in the armies and in the Navy, all these different infantry groups. They have chaplains that teach them God's word, but not according to the law, statutes, and commandments. This is one of the reasons why the United States is such a great country, and they're able to beat down all these other countries, because the other countries are not serving the Most High God, right? They're serving them, but not the way the children of Israel are. So when the children of Israel, when we start keeping the law, statutes, and commandments and following the ways of the Most High, they won't be able to fight against us. The Most High will not defend them. That's why in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5, it says they're going to be in fear. They're going to be afraid. How could they be the children? We've been in the midst of them the whole time. Not them. No way they could be the children of the Most High is what it says. It's going to be us. This is what we have to understand. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9, verse 20. Revelation chapter 9, verse 20. Revelation chapter 9, verse 20. And it reads, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Can that cross see anything? Does the cross even have eyes on it? You know what I'm saying? Does a cobblestone have any eyes? Can it talk and walk? You know, the Most High is so plain with this. He's so simplified, yet we still can't see what he's saying. Verse 21, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. So the Most High is going to destroy all these men who are in the midst of these sins. Let's go back to 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 11. It reads, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them, wherefore they went out of the camp to battle. But they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. Never underestimate the sound of the horn for war and judgment. But let's go to Numbers chapter 10 and verse 9. Numbers 10 and 9, and it reads, and if you go to war in your land and against the enemy that oppresseth you, then you shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and ye shall be remembered before the Most High Yahweh. And you shall be saved from your enemies. So by blowing those trumpets, Judas Maccabees knew that he would be saved from his enemies. Verse 10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in the beginning of your months, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your power. I am the Most High, your power. So we blow our shofars on the Sabbath. We blow it on the new moons. We blow it on the feast days. As what? As a memorial. It talks about that in the book of Psalms. When Joseph went into Egypt, he had an ordinance to blow the trumpet every month. Right? That was a commandment given to him by the Most High. So we have to understand this significance in everything. We've already been over 13 scriptures already in this chapter, and we've been precepting it, precept for precept, pursuant to Romans 15:4, for whatsoever things have been written for our learning. So we are getting learning and understanding through the precepts of what our family was like and what they went through. Okay, let's go back to 1 Maccabees. And let's go to chapter 4, verse 14. It says, so they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain. Howbeit all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword. For they pursued them unto Gazaria, and unto the plains of Idumea. So in the land of Edom, this is where we ran these people to. At this particular time, Edom was no longer in Idumea. They had already moved on. They had went into the north countries by this time, most of the Edomites. A lot of them went into the land of Persia, went into the land of Medes. Some even went into Egypt. Okay? These are the Edomites. And it says, and Azotus and Janiah, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his host from pursuing them. So we were chasing them. And said to the people, be not greedy of the spoils, inasmuch as there is a battle before us. And Georges and his hosts are here by us in the mountains. And Georges and his hosts are here by us in the mountain. But stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them, and after this you may boldly take the spoils. As Judas was yet speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain, who when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid, and seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled everyone into the land of the strangers. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents, where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea. Wow. And great riches. Verse 24. After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Most High in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever. You can go to Psalms 135 and 13, and you'll see it there. And this is during the time of King David. He wrote many poems, many prayers. Sister Shashan asked me to say a prayer over her this week. I pray that y'all also said a prayer for her this week, dealing with her co-workers. But understand that his mercy endures forever. Psalms 135 and verse 13. This is a great chapter to read, but it reads in verse 13, the name of the Most High, Yahweh, endure forever, and thy memorial, O power, throughout all generations. So the Feast of Dedication is a memorial. Why? Because we called upon the Most High. Anytime we called upon the Most High and received victory, it was a memorial. All right? Purim, we got victory during that time of the Persians and Medes. That was a memorial. We give the Most High praise. See, we ain't doing nothing like the holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving. We give the Most High praise on our victory days. All right? All praises. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 25. And it reads, thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysaeus what had happened. Let's read one more verse. It reads, who, when he heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. You have to understand that these men, Lysaeus was a general. Let's go to 1 Maccabees. You have to understand that these men, these generals of the Greeks, when they conquered countries. They conquered India, and they conquered even parts of China. They went all the way into certain parts of North Africa, okay? They went down into Saudi Arabia. They had conquered most of Europe at this time, half of Europe, eastern regions of Europe. And all of a sudden, they go up against the children of Israel, and they fail. Can you imagine the confusion? Like, how did we fail against these small troops of men? But nevertheless, let's go to 1 Maccabees, and let's find out what Lysaeus was. 1 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 7. Just to give you some understanding on where he came from. 1 Maccabees 1, verse 7, it reads, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Who is this speaking about? Alexander the Great. All right, so we all know who Alexander the Great was. Verse 8, and his servants bear rule, everyone in his place. So Lysaeus was one of his servants. Okay, there was a bunch of generals that he had, Alexander the Great. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. So he's telling you a lot about his generals, that they were evil. And everywhere they went, they polluted the earth. The Romans came out of the Greeks, and look at the earth now. It's polluted with darkness. But the generals of Alexander the Greek was Lysaeus. You had another one named Ptolemy. You had another one named Seleucus, right? Ptolemy was all over Egypt, all right? He's the one who destroyed Egypt. You had Antiochus Epiphanes. You had Cassandra. And then you had Antigonus. I always say his name wrong. But you had these generals. Lysis also goes by the name of Lysimachus. If you look up Lysimachus, you'll probably do better Googling it. But Lysis was one of those generals that brought forth evils on the earth. Just so you can understand what type of man that the Maccabees were dealing with. This man was conquering people. Let's go back to verse 27. Let's look at his demeanor when he got conquered again. So now that you understand who he is. It says, who, when he had heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. So Israel, small little town, beat up a king. Verse 28, the next year, therefore, following Lysaeus, gathered together 70,000 choice men afoot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So he beefed up his whole army to go up against a small troop of Israel, because the Most High was with us. Verse 29, so they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men. Very small choice of men, right? Versus that beefed up army that Lysias is sending. And when he saw that mighty army, he prayed and said, blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel, who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of the servant David, and gave us the host of strangers into the hand of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and the armor bearer. Romans 15:4 again, whatsoever things were written for our learning. He's reflecting back to what the Most High did for David. Verse 31, set up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Again, he's praying to the Father for deliverance. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away. And let them quake at their destruction. Let them perish. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. Verse 34. So they joined battle, and there was slain of the host of Lysias about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea. Now, going over this should tell you one thing, that the Most High is dealing with Israel. Secondly, how many of y'all know what the word manliness means? How many of y'all know what that word means, manliness? I mean, the first thing comes to our mind is a man, right? A man is doing manly things. But what does it really mean to be manly? For you women who have boys, you should know what this word means. For you sisters who have brothers should know what this name means. And for you wives who have husbands, y'all should know what this word means. And you brothers should know what this word means, most importantly, manliness. What is manliness? Let's look up this word, manliness. Right? But we're going to use the Bible. We're not going to go into the dictionary. We're going to use the Bible to break down Bible. Let's go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings, because this is something we should know, right? Most of our boys want to know what it means to be a man. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. Now, King David was one of the most powerful kings who ever ruled in the whole earth. King David. It reads, 1 Kings chapter 2, verse 1. Now the days of David drew near, that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth, being thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. So King David is telling him, before I go, man, I want you to be strong and show yourself as a man. What does that mean? Verse 3, this is the ingredients of being a man. And keep the charge of the Most High thy power, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself. So this is the way of being a man. Let's read verse 4. That the Most High may continue his word which he spoke concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. So this is the definition of being a man, keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments. There is no other definition for manliness than this, standing for the truth. This is what is being a man. Let's go to Psalms chapter 1. And let's go to verse 1. Psalms 1 and 1. This is another definition for being a man. I think you should have all the definitions so you know what it means. It reads, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. Anytime you do evil, if you think about the ungodly, you have effeminates, you have liars. All these things, when you look at social media, these are the things that plague our communities. Stealers, thugs, murderers, unstable minds. So he says, do not walk in the ways of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Most High, and in his law doeth he meditate day and night. This is the qualities of being a man. I think a lot of times we break down what it is for women to be like, but we never go into what a man should be. We're always trying to teach the women or how they should be pursuant to the Bible, but this is the way that the men should learn. This is called manliness. Verse 3. I can, what comes to my mind as a child, I would see Bubba Smith, B. Joe Green, got to eat the hungry man to be manly. It's like, what? That's what I thought what it meant to be manly, eating the hungry man TV dinner.
I had my own way of tackling. I used to grab the whole backfield. Then I threw guys out until I found the one with the ball. When I started drinking beer, I did the same thing. And this is the one I'm holding on to. Light beer from Miller. It has a third less calories than the regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes terrific, too. I also love the easy opening can.
Pull up a chair, America. Sit right down there, America. Swanson's cooking just for you.
When Joe gets hungry, he means it. So he goes for a Swanson Hungry Man dinner.
Look at all that meat.
Swanson knows I'm a second helping man.
Come over, Dad. I'm not the only hungry man in the family.
From today, Swanson, Hungry Man dinners to satisfy your hearty appetite.
Swanson's cooking just for you.
But the Most High breaks it down what manliness is. Verse 3. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. So if you follow the ways of the Most High, you're going to be a manly man. Let's go to a couple more verses. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Let's go hit the New Testament because people say Jesus or Yahawashi is a soft man. He's very soft. He talk all sweet, right? But he kept the laws, statutes, and commandments too. So what was he considered? A manly man, right? Let's touch on the New Testament. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. I mean, you see the pictures, you see the drawings of the false Christ, no beard on his face, got his hair swaying to the back like a woman. There's no manliness in that picture. None. Keeping the commandments, when you wear your beard on your face, that's part of being a man. That's going into the law. They even show Santa Claus with a beard on his face. Pagan idolatry. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. It reads, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, he says, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. So how are you going to know who you are as a man? By learning the law, statutes, and commandments. We no longer will speak as children. 1 Corinthians 16 and 13. What we are talking about are the qualities of being manly, right? Because we need to know the definition of what manliness is pertaining to the Bible. Because Judas Maccabees was a manly man. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. And it reads, watch ye, stand fast in the faith, quit you like men, be strong. Now that word quit you, that whole word in the Hebrew word, it is adrazama. Adrazama. It means to make brave. But adrazama means to be a man, to be brave. All right? And that's what that word adrazama means. Quit you like men. But he's saying be strong. So the Most High is teaching us to be brave. Be brave with what? With the scriptures. Keeping the law, statutes, commandments is going to teach you how to be a man. You're not going to have no femininity in you. Everything you're going to do is pursuant to the scriptures. All right? Let's go to 1 Maccabees. Let's go back and let's touch on 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 36. So make sure you tell your sons that. Make sure you tell your husbands that. Your brothers. That's what it means to be manly. Those scriptures that we just went over. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 36. Let's go back to Maccabees. Then said Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Verse 37. Upon this all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. Y'all know where Mount Zion is. I hope you do. It is two things. Mount Zion is a place and it's a people. It's a people before it's a place, just so you know. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads. So the heathens, they got in there and destroyed our temples. Imagine you having your only connection to the Most High is through your temple to please him, because we were doing sacrifices back then. That was our way of talking to our Father. They destroyed our connection. We had no more Wi-Fi, no more Bluetooth. In verse 40, and they fell down to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried towards heaven. So let's see, what did they actually see? Because we read about in this particular section that grass is growing all around the temple. They had pulled down the altars. But let's look a little bit further on what they did. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. This is what also they did. 1 Maccabees 3 and 48. And it reads, and laid open the book of the law. This is our books, our Bibles, our scrolls, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So we had images in our books back in those days. What were those images about? Menorahs, how to build certain things, our altars. There was sketches in there probably of how to build the altar. So we wouldn't make a mistake the next time. We left notes. We had pictures of King David. We had our shields, all the sons of thunder, they had shields in there. If you go to any place in the world, you go to some of the ancient places of any other country and any other nations, you walk into some of their great temples. What's in there? They got the shields of their fiercest warriors. They got the scepters of their kings in there. This is stuff we had in our temple.
This is Isaiah 39 and 1. It reads, at that time, Merodach-Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick and was recovered. And Hezekiah was glad of them, and showed them the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto them, what said these men, and from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country unto me, even from Babylon. Then said he, what have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, all that is in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures, that I have not showed them. So Hezekiah was showing them the treasures in his house. So there was more than this in the temple. All right? Way more. So just so you know, we already had this understanding back then.
All right? They got that from us. Israel was the first one to set up temples like this, you know, in honor of our forefathers and of the Most High. So they had to get that from us. So if you look at what they did, they laid open the book of our law. In that book of the law, we had law, statutes, commandments, of course, but we had also probably images of what King David looked like, King Solomon, with the dress attire, what the priest, the high priest looked like in their attire, how to fix it, how to organize it, right? Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So they start painting their own images in our book, just like we see today. You purchase some holy Bibles. Maybe your grandmother's Bible in her house. She had the Caesar Borgia on the Bible, the false Jesus, right? You open up that book, you got all these images, right? They put that in their books. They brainwashed us here in the United States and all around the world with that image. That's strategic. That's war tactics. They brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up who had accomplished their days. So they were messing with our Nazarites. They were messing with our high priests. Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 2. This was like a desecration of what we believed in, man. We believed that we could connect to our Father through the temple. And we got blessings from doing that. 2 Maccabees chapter 6. 2 Maccabees chapter 6. And let's read verse 1. Let's start at 2. I don't want to talk about the brother that had became Uncle Tom. I want to just go to verse 2. 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 2. And it reads, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus. Y'all know what the temple of Jupiter is? You know, when I first visited Rome, and I walked through the city of Rome, I got, for one, most of y'all might know, I got sick because of all the different artifacts that were stolen from Egypt, that was stolen from Africa. They're all over Rome. Every single temple, they actually, if y'all don't know, they took, when Pontius Pilate had Yahawashi marched up the step to be crucified, they took apart that whole temple and took it to Rome. I don't know if y'all know that. Every step, every rock, they shipped it all the way to Rome. So it's in Rome right now. It's not in Jerusalem. And they got people who are Catholicism, they believe by praying and kneeling on each step and walking all the way up the step that they'll receive a blessing. So you had all these people crawling up these steps. I mean, it was like 30 steps, crawling up these steps to get to the top to receive a blessing where they could kiss. They were kissing each step, right? Talking about pagan. So I walked around them. I walked totally around them and just walked up the steps. I was pissed, actually, at that time. That was in 2000. So, but I got sick because of all of that stuff that I was seeing. So they removed everything and put it in Rome. So when you look at the desecration of the temple in this book, these are the things that they were doing. They were just destroying it and making it unholy. Let's jump over to verse 4. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 4. But Jupiter is Zeus. So when you hear Jupiter, it's not talking about the planet. It's talking about Zeus, Greek mythology, right? That's what it's going into. Verse 4, for the temple was filled with riot and raveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots. They were bringing prostitutes in the temple and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. Any way of polluting that temple, they did it. They tried to make it into a hotel. The altar was also filled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. So they were bringing in pork and roasting all types of abominable foods on the altar, right? I'll just read 6 just as a coupon. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days of ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. All right, so when you look at what we read in 1 Maccabees, I said that Lysias and all the generals of Alexander, the evils multiplied in the earth. This is one of the ways. They took our heritage from us. They took everything that we knew away from us. Verse 7. And in the day of the king's birthday, every month, so this king had a birthday every month. It never stopped. They were brought by bitter constraints to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, like Christmas, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 41. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law. So he only chose those who loved the law. Let's go to Acts chapter 5. Because people say, well, they didn't keep the law in the New Testament, but they did. They did keep the law. Acts chapter 5. This is one of my favorite verses. I mean, all of them are my favorite verses. But Acts chapter 5, verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we are to obey the Most High rather than men. So these are men who love the law. Okay? They have pleasure in keeping the law. Verse 30. The power of our fathers raised up Yahawashi, whom you slew and hanged on a tree. Him hath the Most High Yahweh exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Yasharallah, Israel, and forgiveness of sins. And we are his witnesses of these things, and so is also the Holy Spirit, whom the Most High Yahweh have given to them that obey him. See that? So we are to obey the Father. Let's go back to 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 43. So Judas Maccabees only hired those who obeyed the law, that had the zeal of keeping the law. Verse 43, who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. That goes into the law too, on how we're supposed to build the altars. They have to be stones that are not chiseled. And as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, how was it profane? We read about that in 2 Maccabees. They was barbecuing pork, pig, swine, everything on that thing. They thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because thy heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down. If you know the law, if you use any pots and pans to cook like shrimp or anything abominable, you're supposed to throw that pan away. You ain't even supposed to use it no more. A lot of y'all don't know that. A baking cookie sheet, and somebody got some hot links on that thing in the oven. You got to throw that thing away. Don't even use that pan no more. It's disgust. And ain't no soap, ain't no Dawn, ain't no Ivory soap. Go get that stain off of it for the Most High. Verse 46. And laid up the stones of the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. So this was during that time. Now, we are in the land of forgiveness. Now, if you do that, what I had spoken about, throwing pots away, and you live with your mother, and your mother buy all the pots, get ready for a fight. You're about to get either kicked out or beat up. You got to be wise as a what? As a serpent and calm as a dove. You got to know how to move in this truth. All right? You can easily just say, no, thank you, I don't want it. You can easily just say something like that. Verse 47. Then they took the whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts, blessed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, which is the menorah, and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted, that they might give light in the temple. So what kind of sticks, what kind of incense did they burn? Go into the book of Numbers, it'll break it down. Do not try to copy the potion that the priests were instructed to do. All right, there's a potion. Some people try to make the house holier than thou, but the priests are no longer running things down here on earth. All right, the only one that's running things is the Most High and Yahawashi. He is our high priest. Because that stuff could backfire on you when you try to take that into your own hands. It's almost like casting a spell on yourself. So be careful with that. Verse 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 5 and 20th day, highlight this verse, verse 52, this is your feast of dedication. Now on the 5 and 20th day, which is the 25th day of the 9th month, the 9th month normally comes around in November. November, if you look at the name November, it means In the Latin tongue, 9, nueve, noventa. Okay? So the 9th month is November. When do you start counting to the 25th day? When the new moon comes at the end of the month of November. All right? Now on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, 3 times in the morning, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that what was it dedicated with songs, citherns, and harps, and cymbals. As you can see, that place was holy and very happy, okay, very merry. There was no static in there, with nobody in there arguing in the temple. Everything was in unison. We carry, hey, when they say take it outside and fight, where do you think they got that from? They got it from us. Take it outside the temple. If you want to fight, go outside the temple. They got that from us. All right? Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar. How many days? Was it 6? Was it 7? No, it was 8 days, just like the Feast of Tabernacles. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. So which one are we doing? We're doing the 8 days. We're not doing the offering. We're not doing the sacrifice. Our sacrifice is with our words, charity, talking to one another about Hamashayach coming back to redeem us. That's our sacrifice, our words. And we do praise. Verse 57. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers that renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5 and 20th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness. See that? At that time also the building up of the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers, like Nehemiah was talking about. The towers and the walls were torn down during the time of Nehemiah. That's why he was fasting. That's why he was praying. All right? Because everything was torn down. So we started with that verse. It says, at that time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. All right, so that's going to conclude this class. You should have understanding of why we keep the Feast of Dedication now.
This is the word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.
Everything is calling that you see right now, that we walk, that we see, that we feel, as far as that is mindedly. you know. And the things that we walk after the Spirit is what? Keeping the Most High's laws, you know, following His laws. That's the spiritual path that we have to be on. Sorry. And because we all were like that at one time, you know. That's why you still, you know, still pray for your daughter, you know, whatever her situation is.
But this is our Feast of Dedication. This is what we do every year. And we look forward to it, and we study it. We always do a review over the Feast of Dedication every year. At the beginning of it, we do it, and at the end of it, we do it.